Welcome to the Igniting the CEO Within podcast, where we interview successful high-level professionals to discover lessons they've learned throughout their career that can help you ignite the CEO within you. I'm Mark McFatridge, and I'll be your host for the next 20 minutes or so. Our show is sponsored by Quaid, a nationwide community of CEOs and entrepreneurs. Quaid has developed Launchpad, which offers an exciting opportunity for executives to become licensed circle directors and earn annual recurring six-figure revenues. After completing the Launchpad program, you'll lead your own peer advisory circles, helping other CEOs and entrepreneurs excel in their professional and personal lives while providing a community of support, accountability, and challenge. We help you do this while only putting in about 60 hours per year per circle. If you'd like to learn more, go to quaidcircle.com. On our show today, we have Robert Fletcher from Kansas City, Missouri. Robert, welcome. I'm so pumped to have you here. In looking at your LinkedIn profile, you've had an amazing career and have touched all kinds of leaders and seen all kinds of leaders and all that. Quick question to lead us off. What is
Sure.
one key leadership trait that you've seen that differentiates excellent leaders from average or even poor leaders?
Good morning. Thanks for having me on the podcast. Nice to be here. Um, when when you say that, one person that definitely comes to mind, my last full-time job was at the VA Medical Center here in Kansas City, and I was the lead PA. I had been a physician assistant in primary care and done some not only clinical stuff but administrative responsibilities at the VA in primary care, helping with veterans that were coming back from OEF, OIF, and I assembled a team of people that we were able to fast track those folks coming back from Iraq and Afghanistan. That was in the early, I guess, mid 2000s, and after that, I became there. A position came open, or actually, I kind of helped it come open as lead PA at the VA Medical Center there, and there were approximately 10 PAs there. So I took on the role as lead PA, and the person that I reported to was the executive medical director. And when you say the person that embodies a good leader, I was just always amazed, and I made sure that I told him this,
Yeah.
and I told other people that. I mean, first of all, he was very bright and he was very personable, but and I was on a good grasp he had on the entire institution, what was going on with quality in the institution, kind of what the bed level was, the census level was, but also he could tell you individual things that were happening in many of the departments at that institution. I mean, because it was very clear that not only did he have the broad picture, but he had the specific picture of what was going on. He would speak to you as he was going down the hall, even if he was talking to other people. It was just amazing, I thought. And, he was probably in his early 50s, and I was just amazed by how he was able to do both of those things so well.
Yeah, that's amazing. So, what said a different way, you had somebody who had a strategic vision and understood kind of where the unit was supposed to go, how they were going to get there, but he never lost sight of the people around him that were really going to make it happen. And he took that extra time to get to know them, their units, and how they played a role in the whole thing. Does that
That's
sound right?
correct. I mean, I think that knowledge of the units helped him have the broader vision. I mean, a lot of times people have one or the other uh, down really well, but the fact that I mean, he would conduct meetings, large meetings. We were talking about quality of care in the institution, but he would know specific individual things that were happening. Yep.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, to me, and when you start thinking about as a teammate of a leader like that, that just him having a good feel for who I am as a person and the group that I'm playing a role on, that just endears you to that person and almost makes you want to run through a wall for him, right?
Oh yeah, yeah, anything.
Yeah.
Anything. I've seen other people, say that about leaders, and I'll think, "Well, I don't know where you're coming from on that," but, this guy, I definitely felt that way. I mean, I'd had other leaders that were, maybe visionary, had ideas for the future, but to have that complete, package, I think is a rare talent, and a good strength, yeah. So
When you yeah, so kind of going back to your roles in leadership, and you talked a little bit about some of the really important positions that you've had in leadership. How did you start to put those things in place? How did you learn to empower your teammates and the folks that reported into you and through you?
Well, there were a couple of different times in my career where I was lead PA. Well, first of all, yeah, well, a couple of times when I was lead PA. One was at Kaiser Permanente, and I was there at 8 years and doing primary care. So. Um, Again, there were about maybe not 10, maybe there were 5 or 6 of us, but knowing the skills that we needed to have, like, doing skin, biopsies or doing some simple, laceration repairs, those kinds of things, me recognizing that and then meeting with our group, I met with our group, once a month, and we would talk about the things that maybe we needed some help with, some extra skills with. So I reached out to one of the surgeons on the Kaiser Permanente physician team and said, "Hey, would you be willing to spend a Saturday morning with us
Hmm.
to learn some suturing?" So meeting with uh, the fellow PAs, learning kind of what our needs were, and then trying to meet those needs, and then using other members of the team
Yeah,
to put that all together. I mean, I think that that's an example of knowing when you're down in the weeds with everyone, you know what people need
yeah.
and what would be exciting, and so I guess that's how I approached that. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Sometimes we sometimes make leadership too hard, right? And almost what it boils down to is your role as a leader is to remove obstacles for the folks that you're leading.
Hmm.
And by you inserting yourself and understanding kind of what they needed to be successful, and then putting actions in place to do that, that was, you broke down those barriers that made their job easier. And again, I'm sure from a cultural standpoint, that really put you up on a pedestal for them as your teammates.
Well, I don't know. It may put you on a pedestal. It may make them think, "Oh, I'll do something for that guy because he's on my team." But I
Yeah,
think uh, as important is it makes you one of the team as opposed to this guy up there that makes all the decisions. And, you don't want to be around him. Like the medical executive, I mean, director that I was talking about before. I would do anything for him. And when I would go to him and I'd give him a pass. I mean, like, I would want something for the PAs. And I'd say, we really need to enable the PAs to be able to do this. And sometimes I could tell that he really cared and maybe was on my side and wanted to do that. But at the same time, I knew him well enough to know when he gave me an answer that he was having to play some politics on the other side.
uh-huh.
So by having that interaction, knowing him, built a level of trust as I would hope, with the PAs that I was working with, it develops more trust so that if you have to say no, you can understand more. You can say, okay, I'll give him a pass, but I know he's on my side, and maybe I'll come at it from a different angle next time. So I th- I've had jobs before where I felt like, oh, the politics were overwhelming,
Hmm.
and sometimes they were overwhelming because there was never someone that I could trust like that, like we're talking about. But
Yeah,
when you're like that medical director that's down there finding out what's going on day to day, then you develop that trust, and so um, you can hear no easier, and you can start to think of you can pivot. you can think of a different way of looking at it. I mean, I think if I think about my life and my career, and being able to not just think either or, but also, looking at things in a different way, I think is important. And that visionary leader that I talked about is like I keep going back to. I think was a master at that and
Mhm.
building that trust with the people that he was meeting on a daily basis, and not just making executive rules in some big meeting.
Yeah, I like that, and I love that thought of, um being able to look at things from different angles. That can be a challenge when you're leading a team, right? Because
Oh,
everybody is kind of focused on their role and how they do their role, and not everybody has that view of how it fits into the bigger piece. How have you seen that? I mean, you've talked about the medical director that you really admire, that did it really well. How else have you seen that, or how did you maybe even take one of those no's and go back to your team and say, "Hey, look, it's a no for now, but and here's why, and I understand it and I support, and we'll figure this out. But there are other things in play." How did you take that back to your team?
well, I think it was usually a matter of, okay, so this is explaining things, being truthful, I think is really important. Like if I would have a conversation with a medical director and he said, well, uh, another profession, I mean, PAs, nurse practitioners, we essentially do the same things. Political forces can be at play there. And so that became an issue. It would become an issue at times. I mean, I've seen that since I first became a PA in 1976. So, I mean,
Yeah.
centuries ago it seems, but those things those things happen, but explaining what you've done,
Mhm.
how you've tried to approach it, what tacks you've taken is the first step. The second step is to have when your group meets, or maybe on an individual level when you're, up visiting with somebody during the day, talking of what's happening in their department, you discuss, well, what other ways could we try? I mean, what are some of the other ways that we could look at? And that's part of the pivoting process that I'm talking
Yeah.
about, is trying to bring in other ideas. Well, how might uh, we approach this? Like it became an issue in with PAs versus nurse practitioners, and not versus, but both kind of wanting to
Yeah.
have independent practice. And so nurse practitioners were kind of the first ones to get that at the VA, and then we talked about, well, PAs, the goal. We thought the goal is for both of us to have that. And so then when we would talk as a group or individually, we talk, well, what can we do? Can we get some help from the American Academy of Physician Associates, or
Uh-huh.
can we get some help from the higher up leadership in at the VA? And so I would talk about those different possibilities with our group, and we would talk about, maybe we'll take this tack. Why don't we try this? Why don't we try that?
Yeah.
And sometimes it felt like, hitting your head against the wall. But on the other hand, getting input from people, I mean, if you've developed some trust, and they'll trust that, hey, he's on our side, he's going to really try for us,
Yep.
or she's really going to try for us, then that makes it easier, and it gets rid of any kind of antagonism or resistance to what you're trying to do.
Yeah, I love that. If you were to take kind of all the stuff that we've talked about today, and you were going to boil it down to one or two things that you would share to an up and coming PA who is going to lead people and all that kind of stuff, what are one or two things that you would really boil it down to, that for them to be a great leader they need to focus on?
Oh, I think that I mean, when I was before this interview, I was kind of thinking, I think people, what I have to say, I think people have to look at their own particular strengths. I think that that's important.
Mm.
There was one point in time where political things kind of, I don't know, there can be work political things, you can be personal political things, but I think an important thing is to look at your own strengths. There was one point in time where I was just doing straight out administration, and I wasn't practicing as a PA. And so, this was late 80s, and I had three small children at home. It's like, and I
Mhm.
had let my license go because I thought I just wanted to do administration. So
Yeah.
I wasn't listening. I wasn't listening to what really drives me because
Yeah.
I was really missing the intrigue of practicing as a PA. I was really missing the one-on-one conversations with patients that can lead all kinds of places, getting to know them. But intrigue, but I had forgotten that I need to look at all of my skills when I'm deciding what to do. So, not every PA is destined to be a leader. I
Mhm.
mean, an executive director or something, but
Yeah.
knowing, how to talk with maybe the lead PA or say, hey, let's look at this a different way. Being able to think uh, with in a different in different ways about problems. I think everyone should be able to. Everyone, I think, has, and I think knowing that really ends up being leadership, right? Because if
Yeah.
I mean, I do that with my own adult children. Say, well, let's look at this a different way,
Uh-huh.
and that's really important because I think that is leadership in a sense.
Yeah.
Some people may go on to be the lead PA or maybe the medical director. Who knows? But I think that being able to pivot and look at things and communicate those different ways of looking at things, I think is probably the most important. Is that kind of what you're?
Yeah. No, well, two things that I took out of that was, self-awareness, right? You have to know who you are,
Mhm,
what are things that you're A, good at, and B, enjoy, and try
mhm.
to do more and more of those, right? So
Those are
that
so
was one
important. Yeah.
huge. And so that was one thing that I took. And then the ability, I'm going to reframe it just a little bit of
Mhm.
always forward, right? Like, sure, we got to here, but that doesn't matter because we're trying to get to here. And so let's focus on what we can do together to get from here to where we're trying to go. Those are two
Exactly.
things that I heard you say in that. And, again, I think super amazing advice. I love it. What we're trying to do is have these little nuggets of wisdom on this podcast. And
Mhm.
you did an amazing job of bringing those out there. So
Thanks.
I'm so grateful for you to hang out with me for these 15, 20 minutes or so. And
Oh,
uh,
sure.
thank you so much for sharing your experiences and insights with our audience.
Yeah, I did all this prep thinking about my career, but it didn't go to any of these kinds of directions. That's fun. Thanks.
Good, good. Yeah. Well, that's what we're trying to do, right? We like to keep it fresh and just conversational. So again, thank you so much.
Anything else I can do for you?
No, man, that's it. Hang on real tight. I'm going to wrap it up.
Sure.
Y'all, as a reminder, Igniting the CEO Within is sponsored by Quaid, a nationwide community of CEOs and entrepreneurs. Quaid has created Launchpad, which provides an exciting opportunity for executives to become licensed circle directors and earn annual recurring six-figure revenues while only putting in about 60 hours per year per circle. To find out more, visit quaidcircle.com. Until next time, keep igniting that CEO within you. I'm Mark McFatridge. Thanks.